said you're striking this.
Well, this is it's not on your.
You're adding it. Okay.
This is your script. And then your script is here, and I've just added a couple.
Gotcha.
Actually,
So,
technically 30 seconds.
Basically, I just need a cue to the donors, so you're not changing the donors.
No, the donor this afternoon. First, let me introduce the donors.
Great. Perfect.
I'll probably skip all of them. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leonard Garfield, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to MOHAI's annual Innovation Exchange. It's one of my, there we go, let's have some applause on that. It's one of my favorite events of the year because it's a special opportunity for those of us who love history to learn from those who are making history right now, and that's what we have for you today. But let me give you a little history on this event. It was 12 years ago, actually inspired by our former trustee Maggie Walker, that we first convened the Innovation Exchange. We wanted to look at Seattle history through the lens of innovation, knowing that this is a community that has always been focused on the future, a community where we build on history, but we are never bound by it. And you can see that spirit all around you right here at MOHAI. Commercial aviation, right above the folks who are here in person. The first Kindle over there. The portable vaccine device that the Gates Foundation developed to go to the last mile and deliver health care right behind me. The original Starbucks sign to create the world's first third place, that's here as well. Amazing innovations that seemed implausible, and now they're considered indispensable. That's what innovation in Seattle history is all about. And this afternoon, we continue that theme as we introduce you to 3 leaders on the cutting edge of innovation today. But first, let me thank our sponsors who have made today's event possible. Our gold sponsors are Nordstrom and the Boeing Company. Our silver sponsors are B2 Launch, Evia, and First Mode. Our advocate sponsors are Harald Becker, Maureen Frisch, and Mighty Media Studios. And we've had incredible in-kind support from the team at Evia, and we thank you for that. You know, I got some really good advice coming up here from the Boeing Company who said, I want to remind everybody that we're a fairly small crowd gathered here at the museum. I think there are about 50 of us, and there's several hundred of us joining us online. It's great to have everybody here in this very special hybrid mode that's unique to 2021. I also want to take a moment on a more serious note to acknowledge that at MOHAI, we are on the historic lands and the contemporary lands of the Duwamish and the Suquamish people, and as we always do, we honor and pay tribute to their endurance. And one other quick note about today's program. Today, those of you in person, but also online, you'll get an early look at our upcoming exhibit, Da Vinci Inventions. 60 models crafted by Italian artisans based on the drawings of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo, of course, remains history's universal genius. His achievements in art, engineering, anatomy, and so many other fields, not only stood without peer in his own time, but were strikingly prescient for the distant future. The exhibit reminds us that Leonardo was a Renaissance visionary who saw the modern world long before it was realized. And in that spirit of inventing the future, we're excited for you to meet today's panel of special guests. Dr. Ali Mokdad, Chief Strategy Officer for Population Health at the University of Washington. Pinto de Silva, Chief Executive Officer for Minka. And Chris Voorhees, President and CEO of First Mode. These individuals have not only led breakthroughs in fields as diverse as health, housing, and space, but in their work, they have pushed the boundaries of what it means to be an inclusive community of innovators. They are building our future. But for today, we challenged each panelist to begin their remarks by reflecting on the past, specifically to identify one model featured in the Da Vinci Inventions exhibit and to share with us how those ideas embodied in that work inspire their work today. And then after we hear from our speakers, we're going to invite all of you to join the conversation as well. Both on-site and online, you'll all have an opportunity to bring questions to this amazing panel. Let me share some of the themes that we're going to hear more about from our speakers today. First, building on the notion of the wonders and complexity of the universe that Leonardo embraced, we'll get a vivid reminder that we are interconnected in this world. We see that every time a modern pioneer launches into space. But here on Earth, the global pandemic is driving this point home starkly. We need to work together to create equitable access to health solutions to confront this challenge to humanity. Then we'll hear about the power of community, sparked by curiosity and enriched by love. Love. Leonardo's drive to understand the wonders of the universe was guided by his holistic embrace of nature, never a reductive one. So as you listen today, expect to hear a challenge. How do we create a community that embraces Leonardo's holistic view of the world? And then finally, we'll hear how history can be a powerful resource for lessons, some sobering, some challenging, but also offer profound reasons for hope. Now, before we meet this guest, I'm getting excited just talking about this. I want to get them up here, but before I do that, I do want to ask that you might consider donating to MOHAI today. Inspiring the next generation, empowering the young innovators who will shape our future. That's at the core of MOHAI's mission every day. Tens of thousands of young people each year find inspiration at MOHAI. They discover the work of pioneers in just about every imaginable field. Unfortunately, as you know, not every student has the opportunity to experience MOHAI. Schools are often stretched thin for resources. Transportation can be a barrier. Even the most token fee can be a significant disincentive. But with the help of donors like you, every year we at MOHAI find new ways of reaching more young people in new ways, always based on our commitment that no child is ever turned away. And that's exclusively thanks to your help. So if you are joining us online, you can also join us by contributing by using the QR code that's in the corner of your screen, or you can click on the link on our website to the YouTube event page. For those of you in person, we have forms that you can fill out. We would gladly receive those from you. And of course, you can always go to mohai.org to donate at any time. So in advance of your support, I want to thank you again. Now, it's my great pleasure to get the program underway and to welcome to the stage Harald Becker. Harald is a MOHAI trustee. He's co-chair of the Innovation Exchange Committee, and he's director of Microsoft's Modern Work Co-Innovation Team, where he's helping to invent the future of work. And I think anyone at work figuring out the future of work must be a mighty busy man, so we're very pleased and appreciative that Harald Becker is joining us today. Please welcome Harald.
Thank you, Leonard. And I am so excited to be here in person. You don't even believe it. But also hello to folks online. Hi, Mom. I'm Harald Becker. I'm a co-chair of the Innovation Exchange Committee, and I'm a trustee, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm so excited to introduce my friend Anna Pinto de Silva today as our first innovator and speaker. Many years ago, Anna and I, back at Microsoft, worked on a project that is still one of my favorite work experiences ever. It was reimagining a home of the future. And there's a direct line from that work to where Anna is creating value today as the CEO and co-founder of Minka, where she drives transformational change at the intersection of housing, healthcare, and technology. Anna is building intergenerational communities that seek to strengthen connections, improve health, and increase well-being. As a designer, technologist, and community leader, Anna is dedicated to creating products that matter, defining new landscapes of opportunity for underserved communities worldwide. She has led future-forward design innovation initiatives traversing healthcare, education, civics, shopping, and productivity for Amazon, Microsoft, MBBJ, and others. We're so pleased to have you. Please join me in a warm welcome for Anna Pinto de Silva.
Thank you, Harold. That was so truly kind of you. Such a warm welcome, and thank you all so much for being here today to celebrate the opening of the Da Vinci Inventions exhibit. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to Leonard Garfield, Harald Becker, Carrie Veals, and to the board of MOHAI for their invitation to speak and for their gracious support throughout the event planning process. I also want to thank Curtis Wong, Martha Cho, Colleen Echohawk, and my Pichakacha Seattle GSD Design Impact and Design Intelligence families for their friendship, inspiration, and guidance. And finally, to my father, Dr. Pedro Pinto de Silva, artist, scientist, and agent provocateur. This talk is dedicated to them. Inspired by Leonardo's clock mechanism, the theme of this talk is time. So I thought we could take just a few seconds together to just look at Leonardo's clock. The Da Vinci Inventions exhibit could not have come at a more important time for our community. As we near the quarter mark of the 21st century, climate change and the ongoing impact of the coronavirus pandemic have put us on a collision course with our very notion of time, forcing a reflective stillness upon us while accelerating long-standing trends with a whiplash akin to a car wreck. These challenges demand a reckoning. They invite us to reassess our accomplishments as an innovation community, shining light on what we have achieved, but also making plain what we have missed and who we have failed to serve. The technological legacy of Leonardo's work at this moment of crisis is profound. The Da Vinci Inventions exhibit affords us the opportunity to step back and to reconsider our role as innovators and technologists at this moment of historic inflection, challenging us to question assumptions and reassess our values as we seek to create the future-defining technologies demanded by our time. Our modern experience of time is deeply technological. Before mechanization, time was most often experienced as a circular cadence of seasons, one giving way to another, the idea of forward motion or progress deeply beside the point. The linear westernization of time is set in motion by the ancient Greeks, whose ore were the goddesses of the seasons, representing the natural divisions of time. As Christianity spread throughout the Middle Ages, the day was further subdivided into canonical hours, marking periods of fixed prayer that served as a proxy for spatial, spiritual, and physical control. The encroachment of linear time was further accelerated by the advent of mechanization, amplified by innovations such as the village clock, whose bells could be heard for miles across fields and valleys. And later, as Einstein's theory of relativity would make clear, the intersection of space and time collided as train tracks crisscrossed the landscape, requiring a far more synchronized codification of time. The telegraph further accelerated this process, and hotly debated arguments between nations ensued as leaders fought to determine the global locus of time, eventually and quite grudgingly deciding on the Greenwich meridian. In the ensuing century, technology further subdivided time so that now we can measure time and space with an almost atomic accuracy, allowing us to know exactly and precisely when our Uber Eats driver will arrive. Given this briefest of histories, we can see that time is far from neutral. Our modern experience of time rests upon a set of technologically framed agreements that are normalized through negotiation and argument and set within the confines of a specific cultural context. For example, Buddhism teaches us that time does not exist. There is only an eternal now. The Lakota tribe's story of 7 generations bridges the past to the future through the fulcrum of the present. 3 generations of ancestors support and guide. 3 generations of descendants bear witness to our actions, helping us assess our choices, the ways we raise our children, the way we treat others, the challenges we define for ourselves and for our community, and by the impact they will have on future generations. The social determinants of health provide yet another model, helping us understand the ways in which our environment shapes not only our outcomes, but also impacts future generations, defining the arc of opportunity available to our children and their children. When we understand time through the refracted light of these collective lenses, we can see that our lives do not start and stop with the moment of our birth or the moment of our death. The drivers that shape the contours of access we are born into extend generations far before our births, just as the impacts of our lives extend far beyond our deaths. This is true from a cultural perspective, this is true from an economic perspective, and this is true from an epigenetic perspective. But what of Leonardo? Well, Leonardo did not invent the clock. His central innovation, the introduction of a spring mechanism connected to weights and gears, improved the movement and accuracy of the clock, allowing a more precise measure of time. The unfolding of time is a central theme in Leonardo's work. Never before had an artist been able to connect the interior psychological world of a subject to the constantly unfolding dynamism of the exterior world, imparting a sense of moment, a sense of movement, a sense of eternal becoming that connected rigorous scientific discovery to a profound humanism in the relentless pursuit of a systemic reasoning for the natural world. The word moment only materializes just before Leonardo's time, emerging in the 14th century to integrate 3 conspiring forces: duration, import, and movement. While brief, a moment has power. The exchange of glances, a moment of shared understanding, the emergence of a realization, all have power to change the world. Leonardo's singular genius to convey the dynamic power of a moment anticipates photography, 3D rendering, medical imaging, and virtual reality, ushering us into the visual age with a propulsive force, opening forth avenues of exploration that we are still hotly pursuing to this day. Leonardo's ability to convey a sense of moment was the result of intense study and observation. His anatomical studies, his botanical drawings, his geological exploration, his feats of engineering, and his scientific observations are underpinned by an unprecedented ability to see, to perceive, and to connect. His ability to convey the inner life of the mind and the heart through the clarity of a gaze, to illustrate the subtle interplay of light across the skin, the gentle tenderness of a smile, the subtle gesture of a hand, the glint of sun as it catches a strand of hair or illuminates embroidered arabesques of thread, belie a lifetime of exploration and discourse. Community amplified Leonardo's work. Leonardo walked with kings and dukes. He consorted with knaves and scoundrels. He created a chosen family of artisans and makers and collaborators who supported and facilitated his work. Community is the binding agent at the intersection of Leonardo's explorations. The roil and tumult of debate, the intensity of discourse, deep engagement with books, the magic and celebration of pageantry, and the mischief and ephemeral mayhem of play are the substrate of Leonardo's explorations. One modality, painting, opening into another modality, anatomical dissection, into yet another modality, engineering, into yet other modalities, writing, drawing, and illustration, all within the dynamic cultural context of the Renaissance, eliciting an emergence of a systemic ontology connecting man to nature and to the universe beyond that prefigures Galileo, Darwin, Faraday, and Ford, speaking across generations to connect cultures, space, and time. The canon of Leonardo's work is so vast, so multidimensional, so diverse, it's hard to fully grasp. With each passing generation, new scholarship has emerged, deepening our understanding of his work. Given this overwhelm, we refer to Leonardo in a cultural shorthand that mirrors the values of the current moment. In essence, Leonardo is who every generation needs him to be. The 19th century celebrated Leonardo's achievement as an artist, painter to the kings, serving as a sort of talisman afforded only to the most powerful monarchs of Europe. The 20th century emphasized Leonardo's brilliance as a harbinger of modernity, validating the myth of the singular male genius, straddling art and science to captain the ship of technological progress and innovation, providing a comforting illusion that the future can be predicted and assured. So where does this leave us? Who is our Leonardo? How does Leonardo's work, Leonardo's work have to teach us at this moment of crisis, at this moment where danger and opportunity both darken and brighten our skies? To these questions, I offer the following answers. Leonardo is curiosity. Leonardo is scientific rigor. Leonardo is community. And Leonardo is love. Seattle's innovation community punches far above its weight, shaping the experiences of billions of people across the globe. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, through our scientific and technological genius, we have made of this world a neighborhood, and yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make of it a brotherhood. We have tremendous access. We have remarkable privilege. Our individual and collective choices matter. Technology reflects the values of the societies in which it is deployed and can't fix problems that a society is unwilling to fix within itself. We are often more comfortable thinking of technology as a product of engineering and less comfortable thinking about technology as a cultural outcome, a series of products that intentionally or no reflect the mores and values of our time. We must ask ourselves, who is in the room and who is missing? Who does our work privilege and who is left behind? Do we have the courage to decolonize innovation, radically expanding access to the tools and economic ecosystems of invention and creativity? Can we work from the premise that every life has equal value, extending this frame to include all life, not just human life, imagining technological pathways that will deliver our planet 7 generations forward to the next 7 generations and beyond? Instead of seeking salvation from a constellation of singular geniuses, can we become instead a community of Leonardos, bound by the deep belief that together we stand stronger than we do apart? Bringing this new future forward will require grit, determination, and resolve. It will require empathy. It will require care. It will require that where we have a wishbone, the backbone of our dreams is stronger still. Can we bring this future forward? Given the remarkable talent in this room, in this community, the answer is a definitive yes. If we can dream it, we can deliver it through community, through collaboration, together. Thank you.
Well, I'm not quite sure how to follow that up. Thank you, Anna. That was really inspiring. And I really love the message about community and how technology is going to take us to the next level if we work together. So thank you. My name is Maren Higbee. I am one of the trustees here at MOHAI, and I am also the Vice President of Development at Mighty Media Studios. I had to look at my notes for that. It's terrible. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ali Mokdad. We are so fortunate to have him here this afternoon in speaking, as Anna talked about, community and togetherness and equity and making sure that our communities can share and grow and thrive together. Dr. Mokdad's work is incredible. You've probably seen him on the news quite a bit lately. Dr. Mokdad is the Chief Strategy Officer of Population Health at the University of Washington. The Population Health Initiative was launched to create a shared vision for improving health and well-being for the populations locally and around the world. You might know Dr. Mokdad from his role as the Professor of Health Metrics Sciences at the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation, otherwise known as IHME. They've been a great partner to us, and they were also part of our innovation last year in 2020. They helped track the global pandemic and forecast trends for world leaders around the globe to make big decisions. As a public health researcher, Dr. Mokdad has published groundbreaking work on local level diseases, trends, and some of the leading risk factors for poor health. His work on obesity is among his highly cited. As Director of Middle Eastern Initiatives for IHME, Dr. Mokdad builds IHME's presence in the Middle East through new research projects, dissemination, and uptake of IHME's methods and results, and consultations with regional leaders in health populations. Please join me for a warm welcome for Dr. Ali Mokdad to join us here on stage.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. It's my first time being in a meeting outside my house. It's the first time that I'm indoor without a mask, so it's a great pleasure to be here. And thank to MOHAI and the organizer for having us here in this wonderful, wonderful facility. And one thing, never, never put me again after Anna. So I learned a lesson. I want to speak about innovation exchange now. And we were asked, all of us, to pick one of the items being displayed here, and I picked exactly this one in front of you, and both of us could watch it for, it's coming up. So for my talk today, I picked the Leonardo da Vinci vertical ornithopter. If you look at it like now, it's exactly like a helicopter. It goes straight up. And then I was talking to Anna before the presentation today, and she did a wonderful job describing what Leonardo has done and how much of an innovator he is. And she was saying, if he is right now, if he comes to UW and we want to have him as a professor at UW, in what school we will put him? In what department we'll put him? Because he did a lot of great things. Why did I pick this today? And I'm a person who talks about health. I'm talking about equity and population health. His invention is a mean for us to go straight up. And that's very important in life. As an employer, you want your staff to feel they can go straight up. In a community, you want people to feel that they can go straight up. There is a room for growth. This is when you create innovations. And it's very important to do it in an equitable manner so everybody has equal access to success. That's when you bring the best in us. That's when you bring the best in our community. And I want to talk briefly about our work right now at the IHME and at the University of Washington. We started getting into projecting COVID-19 for every country in the world. We started doing this at the request of the University of Washington Medical Centers. UW Medicine came to us and said, we would like to know how many ventilators we need, how much oxygen we need, how many beds we need, how many ICU we need to be prepared in order to take care of our patients here in our catchment area. And we started doing it for our city, our county, and we started doing it for every state, and now we do it for every country in the world. And what we do at IHME, we do projection. We provide diabetes in 2040. And the idea is not to tell you where diabetes would be in 2040. We're more interested in what can you do now to prevent diabetes. If you reduce obesity by 5%, what will happen to diabetes? How much it will cost you to do it? What's the return on your investment? And where you put your money right now, given the limited resources we have. And we wanted to provide scenarios for people. If you wear a mask, how many lives you would save? If you increase vaccinations, how many lives you would save? And we had to deal with a lot of issues. We have to be innovative during this work because the data wasn't there. The data doesn't come in a good format for us to analyze. Sometimes the data is not good. We have to clean it. And we have noticed throughout this pandemic, Saturday and Sunday, people do not die. People don't go to hospitals. People are not being diagnosed with COVID-19. Monday, Tuesday, wow, we have a rise. And you see it everywhere. The data is not clean, and we have to deal with it. But in our work, what we have realized, not everybody is impacted the same way with COVID-19. We need to remember, in the United States, COVID-19 came on top of pre-existing problems. We had cracks in our health system, and COVID-19 came on top of this. And that's why we are in the United States, 5% of the total population of the world, 20% of the burden of COVID-19, because of the cracks in our system. In our work, what we have noticed is Hispanics and African Americans, if you look at it right now, their chance of dying, probability of dying, is much higher than white. And then it's across all age group, and early on people were saying, well, they're older, they have risk factors, they're more likely to be diabetic, they're more likely to be, they have cancer and cardiovascular disease. That's not true. The highest mortality was among the younger age group, 35 to 44. We failed to protect our essential workers. We failed to protect those who kept food on our tables. And we failed to protect those who kept our country running. That's very important to remember. CDC published about a week ago a declining life expectancy in the United States from 2019 to 2020 by 1.5 years. Just to put it in perspective, 1.5 years in 1 year. On average, in the world, it takes 1 year to gain 0.5 years. So we lost 3 years in 1 year in the United States. And that loss wasn't equally among all racial groups. White lost 1.2 years. Hispanics, 3 years. African Americans, 2.9 years. So the COVID-19 pandemic didn't impact us equally. Somebody like me could easily move from my office and work at home. That's not a luxury for everybody else to do it. And it's very important to remember that. So why we have these health disparities in the United States? Why did we have cracks in our system? And why did COVID-19 impact us more than anybody else? Socioeconomic equity, money, education. People who are more educated, a woman more educated, understands the sign of danger, more likely to seek medical care for her and her family, more likely to adhere to a medical message because she understands it. She has the means to follow up and do it. We have lack of health insurance, access to medical care. At UW, my insurance allows me to do screening. It allows to do preventive. Many people in the United States, their insurance doesn't allow them to do this. And by the way, we're the only rich country in the world that doesn't not have universal health care. We don't have it, but every other rich country does. We have poor quality of care, and it's not medical errors, and that's very important. It's the time from a symptom to receiving the first intervention. That varies across our country. People who come to an emergency room have less chance of living than somebody walking to a doctor, diagnosed with a blood pressure, and the doctor is doing a good job controlling the blood pressure. And the last one is preventable risk factors, obesity, as Anna showed, obesity, physical inactivity, smoking. So given all these challenges we have in the United States, we need innovations to fix it. The solutions have to be local. We can't have the same solution for every community in the United States. So we need to invest in innovations, health innovations. And that's very important for us. We need to work on strategies that are applicable in the local community, and we are able to do that. So why we need innovation exchange right now in our community to address our health challenges? It's very important to remember we're facing major challenges with COVID-19. All of us, I lost 2 cousins within 3 days. Brothers, 3 days apart. They don't have vaccines. My youngest sister has not received a vaccine yet in Lebanon because there are no vaccines, and we have plenty of vaccines in the United States. We need equity. We need equity in health care. We need time to help each other. We need that community to come back together. We can't lose our humanity because of COVID-19. We can't. It's very important to remember that children in the United States are not eligible for a vaccine. Our future is not eligible for a vaccine. It's on us to go and get vaccinated. It's on us to wear a mask to protect our future in the United States. We have to come together in order to do it. We can work together to overcome these challenges. And lastly, in order to do this, we have to review our history. We faced a lot of challenges and we overcome them. We have to look at our history. We have to learn from our mistake and our success story. We have to encourage future innovators. The solutions of our problem could be somebody who's 2 years old right now in a school in Seattle. We need to encourage innovation, invest in innovation. And the last point we need to remember that it's very important to support our museums. Something like this, very important, to bring kids here, let them know what challenges, what history has, and how we can be innovative. Encourage them to do it. Invest in them to do it. That's the only way for all of us to advance. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Mokdad. Really appreciate you sharing your unique perspective on the importance of using technology and innovation to carry us through these extremely challenging times. My name is Hilary Laney. I'm owner and CEO at EVIA and a MOHAI trustee. Dr. Mokdad's advice is one I feel our next guest is putting into action through the work that his company is doing to solve issues of sustainability for the natural resources sector. It is an honor to introduce you to Chris Voorhees. Not only is he a personal friend of the museum as a fellow MOHAI trustee, he also has decades of experience in the implementation of robotic systems for the exploration of deep space. His notable experience includes his work as mobility systems engineer for NASA's Spirit and Opportunity rovers and lead mechanical engineer for NASA's Curiosity rover. For his efforts, Chris receives NASA's Exceptional Achievement and Exceptional Engineering Achievement medals. Chris is the founder, CEO, and president of Seattle-based First Mode, a design, engineering, and technology development firm where he oversees the design, development, and deployment of engineered solutions for missions around the globe and throughout the solar system, including Mars 2020 Perseverance. Today you will hear how Chris uses history as a resource for inspiration and a source of sobering lessons to influence the work he does. Let's give Chris a nice warm welcome as he enters the stage.
Thanks, Hilary. Good afternoon, everybody. And thanks to MOHAI for getting us together, giving us the opportunity to talk about this subject and our different perspectives. I'm going to try to close it out here and come at the topic from a different path than the two speakers that you've just heard. We're in a place that celebrates history. I'd like to talk about history and its role in innovation. We're surrounded by examples of innovation in this special place. We're also surrounded by their contradictory motivations. The struggle of those ideas to reach fruition, the ramifications of our actions, whether those ramifications are positive or negative. And so history, for me, is a powerful source of both inspiration and also a cautionary tale, but it's only if we actually use it that it can be one. I'm going to try to tell a story, a history lesson, to illustrate that. One that starts with Leonardo's Dreams of Flight in his Codex Atlanticus and ends this year on the surface of the red planet. So we'll start our story in 1487. This is when Da Vinci was employed as a military engineer, and he's exploring ways to gain a higher vantage point during battle. Leonardo saw inspiration from the Archimedes water screw, and actually from a little toy propeller that was made from bamboo that had made its way from China recently to Europe. He had all sorts of ideas, including the ornithopter that Dr. Mokdad talked about. He called this illustration helix, or spiral, which should sound familiar. It's where the name helicopter came from that we use today. Meanwhile, in Poland, One of Da Vinci's contemporaries named Nicholas Copernicus was developing his own idea. A different view of the solar system, not centered around the Earth, but around the sun. But Copernicus died shortly after publishing his model. And it was really a century before this guy picked up and progressed that idea further. His name was Galileo Galilei. And through his astronomical measurements of the planets, and specifically the measurements of the moons of Jupiter, he matured this model, this heliocentric model of the solar system. But, unfortunately for Galileo, that was heretical to the teachings of the Catholic Church at the time. And for his writings, Galileo ended up in house arrest for the rest of his life. In fact, those Earth-centric beliefs didn't actually formally get removed from the teachings of the Church until the mid-1880s, which is a really long time. Long enough to actually get us to the Industrial Revolution, which opened up new opportunities, new powers, new ways of doing things, and new folks to go back and take a look at the helicopter again, the one that Da Vinci could never get to fly. And there were a lot of ideas, a cornucopia of ideas, most of which did this, most of which didn't work at all. Just kind of went around and around and around. It didn't really go up at all. It took a while, actually, and it wasn't until Igor Sikorsky, an immigrant from Russia, and he just wouldn't give up. And it took him 30 years from trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing to actually get to the point where the first production helicopter was possible, and that was 1942. And once again, that innovation was driven by a military usage and World War II, which was followed 15 years by the start of our exploration of space, which was propelled by an actual weapon of mass destruction that was turned into a tool of discovery by an immigrant from Germany, which opened up the exploration of our solar system, leading to dozens of spacecraft sent out to the worlds that we knew about and the ones we didn't, and discovering new things, including one spacecraft named Galileo, which explored Jupiter and imaged the very same moons that he had watched through his telescope: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Which brings me back to the helicopter. One of the best ways to explore is to fly, but flying on another planet can be nearly impossible, especially in a place with a thin atmosphere like Mars. It's so improbable that it was just frequently used as a thought exercise or an exercise for the students or a contest, like this one, this entry from the year 2000, which was from the University of Maryland. It won, actually. It was a winning concept for how you would fly on Mars. The corporate sponsor of that competition, a company named Sikorsky Aircraft, which led to this. A student on that team became a designer of this, Ingenuity, the Mars helicopter that flew as a flight experiment from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, designed and developed by a team that was led by an immigrant from India, carried by its big brother host, the rover Perseverance, and just a few short months ago, it did this, and a bunch of other things. And it continues to scout ahead today and travels as a traveling companion with its larger, bigger, beastier, slower brother. Which brings us full circle. An innovation envisioned by an Italian artist, scientist, and inventor, flying for the first time on another world nearly 550 years later. So, what can we learn from that story, that little illustration? innovation can take a long time, sometimes playing out over centuries. And you can also find innovation in the most ancient of ideas. And you should also always be mindful that the innovation has two sides that must be addressed. For example, a tool of peace can also be an instrument of war, and vice versa. And the innovator is responsible for the connection between their innovation and the ethical dilemmas that it might create. We can also see that the most brilliant of innovations can be stopped in their tracks by a society that's unwilling or unable to accept it. In a time where progress on our big ideas that have been talked about already, like climate and COVID, when pioneers in those areas can be personally threatened for the work that they do, history can serve as a stark reminder for the importance of things like teaching people to learn, and the importance of critical thinking and being able to see information from misinformation. And finally, we see that innovation does not have borders, or more specifically, it shouldn't have borders. We are at our best when we share diverse perspectives across disciplines, across countries, across boundaries, and we work together to solve uncommon problems. When we have the problems as big as the world, we'd be foolish not to do so. Thank you.
Wow, I do not know how to follow those presentations. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dr. Mokdad. Thank you, Anna. What a remarkable afternoon this has been. Yeah, let's have another round of applause for our speakers. And those ideas at all different levels, from the very sophisticated to the very elemental, are the core of MOHAI's educational programs, where we really focus on innovation. And Anna, come up and join me here, because we're going to do a tag team here really quickly before we go to the questions and answers. So I'll start the tag team, which is, there's no way I can summarize everything that's been said, but there are some themes that I've noticed have come through. And one is that we all know that innovation is not the work of a sole genius. We recognize people don't go into a dark room and pull the light bulb. We know that it takes a community that welcomes new ideas and disruptors like your dad, that fosters smart civic policy, that provides a space to collaborate and to collide, to embrace risk, and then to have the resources to take those best ideas to scale. But here's the thing, that community of innovators is fragile. It needs a robust pipeline, and that pipeline is our young people. That pipeline is frayed, it is not fair, it is not equitable. MOHAI steps into the breach. Every year, we serve about 20,000 young people. They come from all over our region. They come to the museum. We take the museum out to them. They learn using the most rigorous state learning standards. No other organization in Puget Sound does this kind of work at this scale. And we do not ever turn away any classroom because of their inability to pay for transportation, for resources, for teaching. Right now, each donation that you make can ensure that a student in our community will experience those potentially life-changing moments that our speakers addressed, one where our diverse history, our exciting future comes alive and inspires in their minds the future that they want to build. Anna, I was so inspired by you and your colleagues, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Leonard. And I just want to take a moment for us to give a round of applause to Leonard and his remarkable leadership. This man inspires. So I'm going to talk about a few I's. Inspiration. And also, we're here to talk about innovation. But the next word that starts with an I is investment. And it just so happens that innovation communities are also investor communities. And each and every one of you in this audience, and absolutely every one of you online, is an investor. And what I'm going to ask you to do is invest. I'm going to ask you to invest in our future. And I know that you can do it And I know that you are ready to do it. And so let's do it together. So I'm going to ask you all to think of a number. Put a number in your head. Okay? You got your number? Now I'm going to ask you to double it. That's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to double it because this is the time. And I will tell you, equity and lacks of equity are in this room with us. Pretty sure that if we're in this room, we're on the upper side of the winning equity circle. We can invest. We can do this. Now that doubled number, because we're investors and we've got to make a difference, and the time to make a difference is now, we need to bring our young people into this community. We need to bring them into this space, into this place, and connect them to their heritage, to their visions, and to their dreams, and we need to support that. So that 2x number that you have in your head, I'm going to ask you to double that. I'm going to ask you to double that because I want you all to show this incredible team, this incredible board of trustees, this community behind this museum that Seattle supports its innovators and understands that those innovators are 7, 17, and every age in between, and they need our support. So that is what I ask of you today. I'm right there with you. Let's do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And you get to stay on stage, and wow, thank you, Anna. That is so inspiring. Anna, come back up. Ali, come back up. Harold, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're on to question and answer.
Fantastic. All right, so this is where the fun really starts, the interactions. This is your opportunity to connect with our amazing innovators and speakers and ask questions. And I know there are questions in the room. I hope there are questions online. We have a mechanism to get those to me. We're running a couple minutes behind, but this is a really important piece, so I hope you have a couple extra minutes so we got at least some space for fun Q&A. So with that, I'm going to move over there. Selfishly, with the first question. And I wanted to ask you, Chris, you lead large-scale global innovation projects, and I would imagine they come with a whole range of challenges. I'd love for you to just pick one or two and what you have learned in your career and how to overcome those.
Yes, they come with large-scale problems, but benefits too. Most, as one example, back to my talk, most space missions are very international in nature. You might hear about a NASA mission, but NASA partners with countries around the world, and scientists collaborate with teams around the world to bring to fruition some of those explorations that I discussed, but not without considerable problems. You have every one of the problems that you think you might have. You have communication issues, you have language boundaries, you have, with complex systems, you have massive terminology issues where one group uses a word in one way and some other group gives it another, and they have to work together to make something happen. And then you have legal and regulatory boundaries. So you have every headwind that you think you get. The thing that you have to believe is that the product will be better in breaking down those boundaries. That actually you'll be richer for understanding how the pieces of the puzzle need to work together, and you'll be richer for finding the perspectives, and bringing the perspectives together. But it's not the low-hanging fruit of the problem. It's just better fruit in the end, and better solutions.
Fantastic, thank you. And maybe before we go to audience questions, one more for Anna, if I may. Anna, I admire your expertise as a community builder. And maybe if you can share one or two secrets of effective community building, like what are some of the things that you learned that you want to share with the audience?
That is such a lovely question. Thank you so much. I'll say I'm kind of addicted to creating community. It's the thing that makes me the most happy, other than my son Ezra. What I have learned is that every single person is a leader, and every single person has something to teach. And of course, everybody has something to learn, and we're all vulnerable, we're all unsure, but we're also full of promise and sparks of possibility. And I think bringing people together is simple. You just recognize that together you have something important to do. So I would say what I've learned is that you create a dream and a vision that's bigger than any one of you. And you create a dotted line trajectory between where you are and where that dream is going to go. And then you leap. And you set a date and a time and a place, and you just go for it. You have to. And together you get there. And I think that's the most extraordinary thing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have questions in the audience? Raise your hand. We have a runner with a microphone. I know some of you are thinking about it. Yes. Thank you.
A lot of direction here. Thank you all for your comments and innovative discussion. It's amazing. Something for each of you, I think. Anna, I think anybody would be crazy to go after you in a speech anywhere. That was incredible. And Chris, thank you for all the work you've done. I've shared the videos of the rover's exploration of Mars with my 5-year-old daughter, who is less impressed with it than I am, but I think everyone in the room appreciates the boundaries that are being pushed. My question is for you, Dr. Mokdad. I appreciated what you said about the protection for the young ones and the younger generation as a dad. It certainly worried me about when or if it's expected that we can vaccinate the younger generation, if it's something that should be done, and if it's something we could count on or should do, I guess.
So thank you for the question. And yes, there are studies right now looking at the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine among 5 to 11. So it should be coming out soon. And there are also clinical trials being prepared right now to look at under age 5. It's very important to remember for all of us in the public health systems right now that everybody is looking at us when it comes to COVID-19, and we have a lot at stake. So when you hear the rumors out there that this vaccine was rushed, no. This technology, mRNA, is from the 1990s. This is an old technology. We've been working on it for a long, long time. And it's very important for us to follow the science. It's very important for us to do the right clinical trial before we give the vaccine to our children. So it's coming, but it's delayed as you would expect. It takes a little bit of time to approve a vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Mokdad. Other questions in the audience?
Hi. Yeah, so first of all, thank you. All of you are amazing and inspirational, so thank you. My question, I guess, and you each touched on it, is progress and what progress really is, and whether you're innovating for short-term gain or solving a problem that's very immediate versus truly solving a long-term problem and having the psychological and maybe the spiritual ability to answer those questions. And so when you talk about talking to youth, we've made so many mistakes. You know, we've invented things that we thought were amazing, and yet they've led to some of the problems that we're facing today. So how do you equip? And I know through history is one of those things, obviously, but the psychological ability to decide, or philosophical, what is right and wrong in the long term for all of us? So if you can answer that, I'd be really pleased.
Just a simple question here. Who wants to take a crack at that?
Well, I can start, I think, but yeah, that's a piece of cake. I kind of touched on it in my discussion. Is that a new invention or a new innovation? It can be taken or a new technology. It can be taken in a variety of different ways. And one of the things that we're not doing particularly well is arming the innovator with an appropriate amount of understanding of ethics and the connection of the technology they develop and the ramifications of their actions. And I think we see a lot of that these days, and that there is a remedy to that, or at least a mitigating force, which is to recognize and reinforce that the teaching of development of new tools and techniques, that it's just as important as good teaching in that area as it is to teach the ethical considerations and moral considerations of the creations you are making and deploying to the world, and that you are responsible for that, and to feel that responsibility, which I think is more disconnected today than it probably needs to be, given the magnitude of the impact that our new tools can make. The responsibility should scale with it.
Thank you, Chris. And I know this is probably a question that everybody would love to chime in, but we're short on time. I want to make sure we also get to the online audience. Do we have a question from the online? So how can we facilitate critical thinking for transformational change for our youth? Did I capture that correctly? And maybe we quickly go down our panelists here. Anna, do you want to start?
Absolutely. And in fact, this was something that Chris and I were actually speaking about just before we got online. Critical thinking is essential. It's not necessarily taught in schools. I was very fortunate to come from a family of scientists who loved to debate and to talk, and apparently had no problem with conversation as a contact sport. But the important thing here is, first of all, to recognize that we need to invest in education, but we equally need to invest in community and in spaces and places. And again, I'm going to put a plug in to invest in MOHAI, because education is ultimately a nation-building tool. It requires a lot of complicity and alignment. Learning, on the other hand, is something we self-select towards, and learning and education are in tension, in productive tension with each other. There has been a loss of community infrastructure over the last since the early 70s, and we're failing to understand that it is our community and the way we traverse our community that helps expose us to new ideas, helps ensure that we are challenged by other ideas, that we don't stay in our ivory towers wherever they may be, and we participate in community, and that we ourselves have ourselves challenged. So I would say, again, investment in community, investment in family, and investment in community spaces and places that allow people to come together, challenge, and then connect.
Thank you, Anna. I want to do a quick time check. Where's our producer? Do we have time for one more question? Oh, wonderful. Lovely. I see there's a question in the audience.
Thank you very much. for such compelling thoughts that you shared so graciously. I heard a management thinker recently describe the artificial life of how we've been living in COVID-19 as a bit of a hothouse, and thinking of it as though it is one of these places where certain things can grow, and when you take them out of the hothouse, sometimes they can continue to grow, and other times they just can't survive outside of that. And so if you think about the world that we've been living in, it is an acceleration of trends already in place. And as we begin to emerge out of this, whatever life looks like, I'm very curious from anybody who wants to take a stab, what sort of things which we're given birth to in this hothouse of experience that we've had living through COVID-19, if they became true secular long-term trends, could have the most significant positive impact.
Thank you. Fantastic question. Do we have a volunteer?
I could go first. I mean, we learned a lot of lessons with COVID-19. My wife is here. We both work in global health. We haven't spent time with each other since we got married as much as when COVID-19 came. We're stuck together at home. And we used to travel a lot, both of us, for our work, different countries. And at one point of time, we have one only daughter. At the airport, we exchanged our daughter. Tells you what kind of life we had. I found out that I love her more than ever before. I used to worry before, if we are together all the time, we'll still be together. So there are things that during this COVID-19, we all had suffered, but there are things that brought us together. And, I found out more about my neighbors. I found out more about their kids. We went back to this community within where I live, within my family. I hope we don't lose that. It's very important for all of us.
Wonderful. I'm looking at you. Any questions? Do you have anything in the online community? All right, then I think this was actually a wonderful note to end it on. I want to thank all of our speakers, Dr. Ali Mokdad, Chris Voorhees, Anna Pinto Silva. Thank you so much. That was inspiring. And now I'm going to ask, yes, round of applause again. While you exit the stage, I'm going to ask Leonard to come up one more time to close this out.
Well, thank you. Yeah, what microphone should I'll work from this microphone. Well, thank you, everyone, again. Wow, what an afternoon. That is amazing. And it is recorded on YouTube, so we'll have a chance to... I'm going to be watching this several times to get all of the amazing ideas. I think the only thing that's left tonight is to thank everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the hundreds of people who joined us online. Thank you especially to our special panel and to the committee, Harald, Hilary, Maren, and the whole committee that made everything so incredibly successful. I also want to thank again our gold sponsors, two of the most amazing companies in Seattle or anywhere in the world, Nordstrom and the Boeing Company. Love you guys so much. B2 Launch, Evia and First Mode, Harald Becker, Maureen Frisch, and Mighty Media Studios. None of this would have been possible without your support. And the Evia team in particular allowed us to do this. This is what we learned in the pandemic, right, folks? To do it in a hybrid fashion so that all our remote community could join the in-person community as well. Though it is awfully fun to be back and see everybody in person, so I'm thankful for that. And just as a reminder, don't forget that our newest exhibit, Da Vinci Inventions, opens Saturday, July 31st, runs all the way through the end of the year. And if you listen to Anna and was inspired by her as I was, please consider making a gift to MOHAI today. Every single gift brings a student to MOHAI or takes MOHAI out to a student, whether it's our youngsters, whether it's kids working in the innovation lab where they actually solve problems in their own community based on historic examples and figure out how to do it better, whether it's our teen program, our MOHAI youth advisors, or whether it's one of the programs that are in development right now remotely so that we can serve all those kids. Every one of your gifts makes a difference and makes that happen. So thank you again for joining us today. I am so excited for the program. Check it out on YouTube, and thank you again, and we'll see you at MOHAI for Da Vinci Inventions. Good night, everyone. and the gallery is open if you'd like to enjoy